The plastic bags rustled against the dusty ground as 12-year-old Miguel dribbled his makeshift soccer ball through the narrow alleyways of São Paulo's largest favela. Each precise touch, each calculated move showed the raw talent that poverty couldn't dim. But Miguel never imagined that his daily practice with this bundle of bags and string would catch the attention of his hero, Cristiano Ronaldo, and spark a chain of events that would transform not just his life, but an entire community. The morning sun beat down on Miguel's shoulders as he raced through his daily newspaper route, his worn sneakers kicking up dust from São Paulo's uneven streets. At 12 years old, he was already a master of time management, delivering papers before school, attending classes until mid-afternoon, then helping his mother sell empanadas at her street cart until sunset. Every spare moment between these responsibilities, he devoted to his true passion, soccer. Home was a small two-room dwelling perched on the steep hillside of Paraisópolis, São Paulo's largest favela. Miguel shared the space with his mother Maria, who worked 3 jobs, and his younger sister Ana. Their father had left 5 years ago, leaving Maria to shoulder the burden of raising 2 children alone in one of Brazil's most challenging neighborhoods. The family's monthly income barely covered their basic needs. Miguel understood this reality from an early age, watching his mother count coins at their small kitchen table late at night, trying to stretch every reel to its limit. A proper soccer ball, costing nearly a week's worth of groceries, was an impossible luxury. But Miguel refused to let this obstacle stop him from chasing his dreams. Instead, he became an expert at crafting makeshift balls. His current creation was his masterpiece. Layers of plastic bags bound tightly with string, weighted perfectly to mirror the feel of a real soccer ball. He'd spent weeks perfecting it, testing different combinations of materials until he found the right balance. The other kids in the favela marveled at his ingenuity, and soon he was teaching them his technique. Soccer wasn't just a game in Paraisópolis. It was hope compressed into 90 minutes of play. Every weekend, Miguel watched through the chain-link fence as the local youth league played their matches on the community's only proper field. He memorized their moves, studied their strategies, and practiced alone in the narrow alley behind his home until his muscles ached. The announcement of the upcoming regional youth tournament sent ripples of excitement through the favela. Posted on bulletin boards and whispered about in school hallways, it promised to bring scouts from professional clubs. The tournament fee was steep, 200 reais per team, but included proper uniforms and the use of regulation equipment. Miguel's heart raced at the possibility, even as his mind calculated the impossible mathematics of the entry fee. His makeshift ball became his constant companion as he intensified his training. Before dawn, he practiced footwork while waiting for the newspaper bundles. During lunch breaks, he practiced against the school wall, perfecting his shots. Even while helping at his mother's food cart, he kept the ball close, doing subtle dribbling exercises between customers. Maria watched her son's dedication with a mixture of pride and heartache. She recognized the same fire that had burned in her own father's eyes. He'd been a promising goalkeeper before an injury ended his career. Now, she saw Miguel pouring that same passion into his practice, knowing she couldn't give him the resources his talent deserved. The tournament was 3 weeks away when Miguel overheard 2 older boys discussing their team's registration. They needed 1 more player to qualify, but more importantly, they needed someone to contribute to the entry fee. Miguel's stomach tightened. He'd managed to save 30 reais from his paper route, far short of what they needed. That evening, as the sun painted the favela's patchwork of buildings in shades of orange and pink, Miguel sat on their small balcony, absently bouncing his homemade ball. Below, younger kids played in the streets, using rocks as goal posts. Their shouts and laughter floated up to him, a familiar soundtrack to life in Paraisópolis. The tournament poster he'd taken from school lay next to him, its bright colors promising opportunities that seemed just out of reach. What Miguel didn't know was that his daily practice sessions, his dedication, and his ingenious solution to the lack of proper equipment were about to catch the attention of someone who would change everything. As he sat there, watching the sun set over São Paulo's endless horizon, the next chapter of his story was already being set in motion, though it would arrive in a way he could never have imagined. The day that changed everything started like any other in Paraisópolis. Miguel woke before sunrise, completed his paper route, and headed to school. But that afternoon, instead of going straight to his mother's food cart, he took a detour to his favorite practice spot, a small clearing between 2 buildings where the walls created a natural goal. The temperature had climbed to nearly 35 degrees Celsius, but Miguel barely noticed the heat. He was lost in his own world, executing a series of complicated moves with his homemade ball. His feet moved with practiced precision, the plastic and string creation responding to his touch as if it were a professional match ball. Wall pass, turn, strike. Again and again, each movement more fluid than the last. A group of American tourists had taken a wrong turn while exploring the outskirts of the favela. Among them was Blair Cheddar, a college student from California with a passion for documentary photography. She noticed Miguel through her camera lens, intrigued by the peculiar ball he was using. Without drawing attention to herself, she began recording. Miguel continued his practice, unaware of his audience. He moved through his self-taught routine, the same tricks and techniques he'd seen professional players use. His makeshift ball bounced off the wall in perfect rhythm as he practiced Ronaldo's signature stopover move. Despite the ball's humble construction, Miguel's talent was undeniable. Each touch, each turn, each strike showed years of dedicated practice. Blair's 3-minute video captured it all. The intense concentration on Miguel's face, the incredible control he maintained over his handmade ball, and most importantly, the pure joy that radiated from him as he played. As she watched through her phone screen, she knew she was witnessing something special. That evening, Blair posted the video on her social media accounts. "Soccer talent needs no luxury," she wrote in the caption, describing how she'd watched this young boy practice with a ball made of plastic bags, showing more skill than many players she'd seen with professional equipment. She added hashtags. #football, #Brazil, #beautiful game, #raw talent. The video began its journey across the internet. It was shared first by her followers, then picked up by several sports-focused accounts. By midnight in Brazil, it had already garnered 100,000 views. People were captivated by Miguel's story, the boy from the favela who refused to let poverty stop him from pursuing his passion. The video's journey continued across time zones. As Brazil slept, Europe woke up to the viral sensation. Sports journalists shared it, adding their own commentary about raw talent and the beautiful game. Former professional players retweeted it, many adding messages about their own humble beginnings. The real turning point came when a Portuguese sports blog shared the video with a simple caption, "At Cristiano, remind you of anyone?" The comparison was clear. Ronaldo himself had come from humble beginnings, playing soccer in the streets of Madeira with whatever makeshift ball he and his friends could create. 18 hours after Blair first posted her video, as Miguel was finishing his morning paper route, completely unaware of his growing internet fame, the video reached Cristiano Ronaldo. The superstar was in his home office in Manchester, scrolling through his phone during a break from training, when the video appeared on his feed. Ronaldo watched it once, twice, then a third time. The boy's dedication, his resourcefulness, and his obvious talent struck a chord. But it was the makeshift ball that truly caught his attention. It brought back memories of his own childhood, of practicing with rolled-up socks when he couldn't afford a real ball, of the hunger to play that no obstacle could diminish. Without hesitation, Ronaldo shared the video to his millions of followers with a message that would set off a chain reaction. "This is why I love football. This is the beautiful game in its purest form. Who knows this young player? I have something special for him." The internet exploded. Within minutes, Brazilian news outlets were scrambling to identify the boy in the video. Local São Paulo soccer fans recognized Paraisópolis in the background. Blair's original post was flooded with comments and messages. Meanwhile, Miguel was sitting in his mathematics class, his homemade ball safely stored in his backpack, completely unaware that his life was about to change. His phone, an old model that could barely handle basic apps, sat silent in his pocket. He had no idea that at that very moment, he was becoming a symbol of soccer's enduring spirit, or that his childhood hero was trying to find him. The video had struck a universal chord. It wasn't just about soccer anymore. It was about passion, determination, and the power of dreams. As news crews began making their way to Paraisópolis and Ronaldo's team quietly made travel arrangements to Brazil, Miguel continued his daily routine, unaware that his makeshift ball had captured the world's imagination and was about to bring something extraordinary into his life. The news reached Miguel during lunch break. A classmate burst into the schoolyard, phone held high, shouting his name. Soon he was surrounded by excited students, all trying to show him the viral video and Ronaldo's message. Miguel stood frozen, watching himself on dozens of phone screens, his makeshift ball dancing at his feet. His first thought was of his mother. He ran from school, sprinting through the winding streets of Paraisópolis to her food cart. Maria was already surrounded by neighbors showing her the video. When she saw Miguel, she pulled him into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. Their quiet life had suddenly become the center of attention. Local news crews arrived first, setting up cameras near their home. Miguel's neighbors formed a protective circle around the family, managing the growing crowd of curious onlookers and journalists. The community pride was palpable. One of their own had caught the attention of soccer's biggest star. But no one knew exactly what Ronaldo had planned. Hours turned into days. The media attention began to fade. Miguel returned to his routine, though now people stopped to watch him practice with his famous makeshift ball. Some kids even started making their own versions, asking Miguel to teach them his technique. On the fourth morning after the video went viral, Miguel noticed unusual activity in the neighborhood. Men in suits were talking with community leaders. Police presence had increased. Something was happening, but everyone seemed sworn to secrecy. That afternoon, as Miguel helped at his mother's food cart, a black SUV convoy entered Paraisópolis. Word spread quickly through the narrow streets. Within minutes, crowds began to gather. Miguel's heart raced as he heard the whispers. "Ronaldo is here." The convoy stopped at the community center. Security personnel emerged first, followed by local officials. Then, stepping out into the bright São Paulo sun, was Cristiano Ronaldo himself. He wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans, but there was no mistaking one of the most famous faces in sports. The crowd erupted in cheers. Phones appeared everywhere, recording the moment. But Ronaldo's attention was focused on finding one person. A community leader guided him through the crowd toward Maria's food cart, where Miguel stood rooted to the spot, his homemade ball clutched tightly in his hands. Time seemed to stop as Ronaldo approached. The soccer superstar knelt down to meet Miguel at eye level, a gesture that made the moment feel intimate despite the hundreds of phones recording it. Ronaldo spoke in Portuguese, his voice warm and genuine. "I saw how you play. You remind me of myself at your age." From his backpack, Ronaldo pulled out a professional soccer ball. But not just any ball. It was one he had used in his last Champions League match, complete with his signature. The crowd fell silent as he handed it to Miguel, who took it with trembling hands. But Ronaldo wasn't finished. He asked to see Miguel's homemade ball, examining it with genuine admiration. He tested its weight, bounced it a few times, and nodded appreciatively. "This shows true passion," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Sometimes the best training comes from having to overcome obstacles. What happened next sent the crowd into a frenzy. Ronaldo cleared a space and gestured for Miguel to join him. For the next 30 minutes, one of soccer's greatest players had a private training session with a boy from the favela. They passed the makeshift ball back and forth, with Ronaldo offering tips and demonstrations. Miguel moved as if in a dream, but his skill didn't desert him. When Ronaldo demonstrated his famous stopover move, Miguel executed it perfectly with his homemade ball. The crowd cheered. Ronaldo's face lit up with genuine delight. Maria watched from her food cart, tears flowing freely. Neighbors supported her as she saw her son living out an impossible dream. The whole scene felt surreal. The world's most famous soccer player, practicing in their humble neighborhood with her son's creation of plastic bags and string. As the training session wound down, Ronaldo had one more surprise. He announced that his foundation would be building a proper soccer academy in Paraisópolis, starting with renovating the community's dilapidated field. Every child would have access to proper equipment and training. But the biggest announcement was personal. Ronaldo had arranged for Miguel to join a prestigious youth development program, with all expenses covered. His talent would finally have the chance to grow with proper coaching and facilities. The day ended with a community celebration. Music played from portable speakers, and Maria's empanadas were distributed freely to the crowd, paid for by Ronaldo himself. The soccer star stayed longer than planned, taking photos with residents and signing autographs. As the sun set over Paraisópolis, casting long shadows across the narrow streets, Ronaldo prepared to leave. He had one final moment with Miguel, away from the cameras. The superstar pressed something into the boy's hand, a business card with personal contact details, and a promise to stay in touch and monitor his progress. The black SUVs departed, but their visit had permanently transformed the community. Miguel stood in the gathering dusk, holding both his homemade ball and Ronaldo's gifted one, physical symbols of the bridge between his past and future. His mother's arm around his shoulder anchored him as his mind tried to process everything that had happened. That night, as news of Ronaldo's visit spread across the globe, Miguel sat on his familiar balcony. The same view of Sao Paulo stretched before him, but everything felt different. His makeshift ball sat next to Ronaldo's professional one, a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary dreams can come true in the most unexpected ways. 3 weeks after Ronaldo's visit, the regional youth tournament arrived. The morning dawned clear and cool, a perfect day for soccer. Miguel woke hours before his alarm, too excited to sleep. He touched both soccer balls on his bedside table, Ronaldo's sign ball, now carefully preserved, and a new practice ball provided by Ronaldo's foundation. The tournament was being held at Sao Paulo's largest youth sports complex. For many kids from Paraisópolis, it was their first time playing on professional-grade fields. Miguel's team, now sponsored by Ronaldo's foundation, arrived in a chartered bus, wearing crisp new uniforms with their favela's name proudly displayed. Maria had taken the day off from all 3 jobs to watch her son play. She sat in the stands with other parents from Paraisópolis, many of whom had pooled money for transportation to support their children. The community's presence was strong. They might not have had the resources of other neighborhoods, but they made up for it with passion. Miguel's team faced their first challenge before the matches even began. Other teams whispered and pointed, some making dismissive comments about the favela team. The tournament organizers seemed to watch them more closely, as if expecting trouble. But Miguel remembered Ronaldo's words about overcoming obstacles, and he gathered his teammates. The first match started rough. Miguel's team, despite their new equipment and recent training, showed nerves. They were down 2-0 within the first 15 minutes. The opposing team supporters cheered each goal with extra enthusiasm, as if putting the favela team in their place. But Miguel had learned more than just technique from Ronaldo. He'd learned about leadership and resilience. During a water break, he reminded his teammates of their daily practices in the narrow alleys, of their skill at playing in tight spaces. "We've trained in harder conditions than this," he told them. "This perfect field should make it easier, not harder." The team's energy shifted. They began playing their style of soccer, quick, creative, shaped by their environment. Miguel led the charge, using moves he'd perfected with his makeshift ball. The opposing team struggled to predict their unconventional approach. By halftime, the score was 2-2. News of the favela team's performance spread across the tournament grounds. More spectators gathered to watch, drawn by rumors of their unique playing style. Among them were several youth academy scouts, originally there to watch other teams but now taking notes on Miguel and his teammates. The second half became a showcase of everything Miguel had learned. He scored the go-ahead goal using the very stopover move he'd practiced with Ronaldo, drawing gasps from the crowd. His teammates played with growing confidence, their earlier nerves forgotten. The final whistle blew with a score of 4-2. They'd won their first match. Between games, Maria handed out empanadas she'd made for the team. The familiar taste of home helped calm their excitement. Other parents had brought coffee and snacks to share. The tournament was becoming a community celebration. The second match proved even more challenging. They faced the tournament favorites, a team from an expensive private school with professional coaching. The other team's warm-up routine was intimidating in its precision. But Miguel's team had something special. They had nothing to lose and everything to prove. This time, they started strong. The skills they developed playing in tight spaces translated into excellent ball control. Their opponents, used to textbook plays, struggled to adapt to their creative style. Miguel's team took an early lead, but holding it would test everything they had. The private school team mounted a fierce comeback. Their superior conditioning began to show as the game wore on. With 10 minutes left, they tied the score. The crowd, now firmly behind the favela team, grew tense. Maria clutched her rosary, praying quietly. In the final minutes, Miguel found himself with the ball at midfield. 2 defenders approached. In that moment, he remembered practicing with his plastic bag ball, how it had taught him perfect control. He maneuvered between them using a combination of moves that looked impossible. The crowd rose to their feet as Miguel charged toward the goal. The goalkeeper came out to challenge him. Without breaking stride, Miguel executed a perfect chip shot. The ball soared over the goalkeeper's outstretched hands and settled into the net. The stadium erupted. When the final whistle blew, Miguel's team had won 3-2. They were advancing to the tournament semi-finals. Players from other teams came to congratulate them, the earlier prejudices forgotten in the face of their skill and sportsmanship. The semifinals would be played the next weekend, but today's victories had already changed perceptions. Scout after scout approached Maria, praising her son's performance. Several wanted to discuss development opportunities. The private school team's coach came to shake hands with every player, acknowledging their talent and determination. As the sun set over the sports complex, Miguel's team gathered for a photo. They stood proudly in their uniforms, covered in dust and sweat, grinning with the pure joy of the game. Someone had brought Miguel's original makeshift ball, and they insisted it be included in the picture, a symbol of where they'd started. The bus ride back to Paraisópolis was filled with singing and laughter. Parents and players celebrated together, the boundary between field and family blurred. Miguel sat quietly by the window, watching the city lights blur past. His mother dozed on his shoulder, exhausted but happy. That evening, Miguel received a text message that made his hands shake. It was from Ronaldo, who had watched videos of the matches sent by his foundation staff. "You played with heart today," the message read. "That's what soccer is all about. Keep showing the world what you can do." Back home, Miguel placed his tournament jersey next to Ronaldo's signed ball. Above them hung the viral video screenshots, now framed, a reminder of how quickly life could change. From his window, he could hear the sounds of children playing in the streets below. More than a few were practicing with their own makeshift balls, inspired by his story. As he fell asleep that night, Miguel realized that winning wasn't the most important part of the day. His team had shown that talent and determination could come from anywhere. They'd changed minds and opened doors. The semifinals would bring new challenges, but they'd face them together, carrying the pride of their community with every touch of the ball. The transformation of Paraisópolis began immediately after the tournament. Construction crews arrived to renovate the community soccer field, replacing patchy grass with professional turf and installing proper goals and lighting. The chain-link fence where Miguel used to watch games was replaced with proper seating for spectators. Ronaldo's foundation moved quickly, setting up a permanent office in the community center. They hired local coaches and provided equipment for hundreds of children. The program wasn't just about soccer. It included tutoring, nutrition guidance, and life skills training. Miguel's mother Maria was hired to coordinate the meal program, finally allowing her to quit her other jobs. The viral video continued to inspire change beyond Paraisópolis. Soccer equipment companies started donation programs in underserved communities across Brazil. Other professional players joined the movement, establishing similar programs in their hometowns. The makeshift ball became a symbol of resourcefulness and determination. Miguel's daily routine changed dramatically. His mornings now started with professional training sessions where his old paper route used to be. The foundation's coaches refined his natural talent, while teachers ensured his education didn't suffer. His dedication remained unchanged. He still practiced during every free moment, but now with proper equipment and guidance. The story caught the attention of Brazil's national youth program. Scouts who had dismissed talented players from favelas in the past began making regular visits to communities like Paraisópolis. They realized how many potential stars they might have overlooked because of social prejudices. Blair Cheddar, the tourist whose video had started it all, was invited back to Paraisópolis by the foundation. She documented the community's transformation, sharing new videos that showed the impact of that first viral moment. Her footage of children playing on the renovated field, wearing proper uniforms and using real soccer balls, moved viewers worldwide. Most significantly, the changes spread through the community itself. Parents who had discouraged their children from dreaming of soccer careers now saw it as a real possibility. School attendance improved as kids worked to maintain their grades to participate in the foundation's programs. The community's pride grew with each small victory. Miguel's original makeshift ball found a permanent home in a display case at the new training facility. Next to it, a plaque told his story and Ronaldo's response. It became a source of inspiration for every child who walked through the doors. The message was clear. Talent and determination could overcome any obstacle. Local businesses began sponsoring youth teams, providing jobs for parents and creating a sustainable support system for the program. The tournament where Miguel's team had proved themselves became an annual event, specifically featuring teams from underserved communities. Corporate sponsors took notice, offering resources and opportunities. The ripple effect reached government levels. São Paulo City Council passed measures to support similar programs in other favelas. They recognized that investing in youth sports could strengthen communities and provide positive alternatives for children. Miguel's story had shown them the transformative power of opportunity and support. 6 months after Ronaldo's visit, Paraisópolis hosted its first youth soccer clinic. Teams from across Sao Paulo came to learn from the program's coaches and play on the new field. Miguel helped demonstrate techniques, teaching others the skills he developed with his makeshift ball. His story had come full circle, from watching through a fence to teaching on a professional field. Maria often stood at her old food cart spot, now transformed into a proper cafe serving the training facility. She watched hundreds of children play on the field where her son had once practiced alone. Each one carried the same dream Miguel had, but now with the resources to pursue it properly. The foundation's impact extended beyond soccer. They partnered with local schools to improve facilities and provide academic support. Children who might have dropped out stayed in school, motivated by the program's educational requirements. The community's future grew brighter with each passing month. Ronaldo kept his promise to stay connected. He received regular updates on Miguel's progress and the program's impact. His foundation used Paraisópolis as a model for similar initiatives worldwide. The boy with the makeshift ball had inspired a movement that would change thousands of lives. As the first year of the program neared its end, journalists returned to Paraisópolis to document its transformation. They found more than just a soccer success story. They found a community uplifted by hope and opportunity. Miguel's viral moment had sparked changes that would impact generations to come. 1 year after the viral video changed everything, Miguel stood on the same spot where he used to practice with his makeshift ball. The alley had been transformed into a small training area, complete with painted goals on the walls. Young children played there now, each one knowing his story by heart. The Paraisópolis Soccer Academy had become a beacon of hope for similar communities across Brazil. Over 1,000 children had passed through its programs, each carrying dreams as big as Miguel's had been. The academic support program boasted a 100% school retention rate, proving that sports could be a powerful tool for education. Miguel's own journey had exceeded everyone's expectations. Now training with a professional youth team, he split his time between their facilities and mentoring younger players at the academy. His grades matched his soccer achievements, fulfilling his promise to his mother to prioritize education alongside sport. Blair Cheddar's original video had reached 50 million views. But more importantly, it had sparked a global conversation about access to sports and opportunity. Similar programs had sprung up in communities from Argentina to Zimbabwe, each adapting the Paraisópolis model to their local needs. Maria no longer worked 3 jobs. As the Academy's nutrition program coordinator, she helped ensure that every child had proper meals to support their training. The small cafe she managed became a gathering spot for parents, where dreams for their children's futures were shared over coffee and empanadas. Ronaldo's foundation had expanded its reach, but Paraisópolis remained special. The superstar made regular visits, each time bringing new resources and inspiration. The sight of him playing pickup games with local kids became normal, though no less magical. Miguel's original makeshift ball remained the Academy's most treasured possession. New students touched it for luck before their first training session. It reminded everyone that greatness could emerge from the humblest beginnings. On this particular evening, as the sun set over Sao Paulo, Miguel watched a young girl practicing alone. She moved with the same determination he had shown a year ago. Her ball, though store-bought thanks to the foundation, received the same loving attention he had given his creation of plastic bags and string. The girl noticed him watching and smiled shyly. Miguel walked over and spent the next hour teaching her the same moves he had practiced countless times in this spot. As they played, he realized that his story hadn't just been about soccer or viral videos or even meeting his hero. It had been about breaking down barriers and showing that talent and passion deserve a chance to grow, no matter where they come from. The lights of Paraisópolis twinkled on as darkness fell. From the renovated main field came the sounds of an evening training session. Somewhere in the distance, children laughed and played. Miguel picked up the girl's ball and handed it back to her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but for now, in this moment, the simple joy of the game was all that mattered.